Good afternoon. Welcome to the September 10th Public Works and Finance regular meeting. First item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 27th.
Move to approve as presented.
Yep. They looked fine to me too, so they are moved to be approved. Our second item is disbursement report for August 2018 with Sarah Banks.
Hello. Okay, so looking at the disbursement report for month ending August 31st, 2018, our expenditures totaled $4,067,062.10. Our largest expenditure, as usual, is payroll at $1,568,391. I did want to point out we had several rather large expenditures coming out. We had two payments for our 3rd Street reconstruction, Phase 2. One payment was $130,283. The other was $327,787.76. We had our slurry seal project. It was our first payment for that.
Yeah.
For $468,493.45. We purchased a new Ford F-250 for sewer. I actually believe that was a replacement purchase in the amount of $22,347.32. And we made a payment towards the concrete project for the East City Park ADA accessible swing.
Oh, yeah.
And that was $84,545.90.
Okay.
Got a good buy on that pickup truck.
Yeah.
I had the same thought too. Did you say new?
All right, with that, we just need to sign the disbursement report. If you all don't have any questions, do you have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay.
Sign it now.
On deck. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, third item, Otani Park Concrete Slab and Pathway Project with David Schott.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is the Otani Park Concrete Slab and Pathway Project. We're requesting to retain McCall's Classic Construction for this project in the amount of $49,877, and then a 10% contingency for construction change orders for a total amount not to exceed $54,864.70. This will be the concrete pad for the playground at Otani Park and a pathway getting to that pad. The playground was purchased, authorized by council on June 18th. We have received the tiles and the playground's being shipped as we speak. This is the site plan that Hodges Associates put together. So we've got Otani Drive up here, Crestview Drive here. The pathway will enter the park, meander down the hill with a few landings for ADA, and then go into the playground slab. Just a couple pictures of the site as it stands now. There is some slope to this site, so we want to make sure we're meeting the ADA guidelines. The dirt piles down here is approximately where the playground would go, pathway coming around behind the power poles and tying into the playground there. Looking at from the other angle, with the playground going over here, the pathway will come up and through here and then tie into the existing sidewalk. August 24th, we put out a solicitation of bids to 5 concrete contractors. We did only get one bid proposal for McCall's Classic Construction. Base bid of $47,327, and then we had a couple alternates in there as well for the total of $49,877. We're requesting to use Hamilton funds for this project. The expenses will be charged to capital projects. Like I said, with the contingency, we're looking at $54,864.70. We're recommending moving forward with McCall's Classic Construction for this project and get this concrete done here this fall. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any questions about this particular installation. Mine is the after installation question. Can I ask you that? Of how we help people realize they can contribute benches and trees. How do we go the next step?
I can tell you what we have been doing.
Okay.
Kristen Graham, our administrative system at the HERC's been doing some social media blasts for some of our other parks, and she's getting pretty good at rounding up some donors for some of these new parks for benches. For Indian Hills, we've got one bench currently being ordered. We got, how do I put it? Somebody that's interested in providing a bench out there.
How much are benches?
Park bench donations, $1,500. So
And that gets you the whole bench?
that gets you the bench mounted on concrete and a plaque, if you wanted as well, for the
Okay.
bench. And our staff would install the bench.
And you already
put-
have like locations picked out within the park that they know where the bench is going to be? So if I wanted to contribute, I could say, I want that spot?
Typically, I'll meet with the donor on site and just make sure we're both on the same page. Each bench would be a unique.
Oh, so
Yep.
you have some freedom to kind of decide
Yes.
where you want to put it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I want the donor to be happy, but the city has, whatever it might be, we might not want to put a bench, right next to a tree. For example, the tree's going to get bigger or something like that.
Okay.
So,
And then the tree donations?
yeah, we certainly take donations for trees as well, so.
And can they pick out the species, or are they going to use the tree guide, or how do they do that?
Same thing as the benches. It would be
Oh,
kind of a case by case. I typically meet with the donor, and then we come up with a good species they're happy with, something that works well for us. It's aphid resistance, for example, good location in the park. I like to keep green space in the park, but I still like to have trees. So it's just a conversation with the donor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can they do it for any particular reasons? Can they make it in honor of someone too? Or do you
For
like
the-
to just have it the name of the person?
We do plaques for benches. We
Not
don't
for
do,
the trees.
not for the trees. So they can, in honor of somebody, but it wouldn't come with a plaque. So
Okay.
it's just the tree. Yeah,
Oh, okay, good. Thanks for that explanation.
you bet.
Nothing? All right, so then we just need our action.
I think we can move forward with this as a consent agenda item. It's been through the mill.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the explanation on consent agenda.
Calls is doing a great job on the other projects around town, the bus stops and the sidewalks.
They're
and
doing a nice job.
Looks like
Yeah.
quality workmanship to me. so.
Yeah, pass that along for sure. Yeah, thank you. Hi there. Item 4, Urban Berm Addition Development Agreement, Bob Bouvel.
Whoville.
Bouvel.
Yep, thanks. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm here to talk to you about the Urban Berm subdivision, the development agreement between Tyler George and the city of Moscow. This is the standard development agreement that we put together for every subdivision in the city of Moscow. So this subdivision is pretty small, pretty limited, so it's kind of the standard development agreement. The only difference between this one and most of the other ones that we do is there is a payment in lieu of parkland dedication, and that payment is going to be $499.50. Other than that, it's the pretty standard development agreement that we do for all subdivisions. I believe you guys are already familiar with the Urban Berm subdivision. We came to this committee for the variance request on the right-of-way dedication, so I
Great.
think you guys are
So in
familiar with
item
it.
9, can you just go, just for the help of educating everybody,
Sure.
why it's $499.50?
I don't know where that I know where I got that number from. That was supplied to me by Dwight Curtis. I don't know how he got that number.
Okay, and then Gary?
That is a calculation according to our exaction for parkland dedications. So if it's a bigger subdivision where we can identify land that we would like a park, then that's part of the dedication process. But anybody who develops has to put, according to the formula that the council approved, a certain amount for the size of the subdivision or the size of the development. They have to provide either land or acceptable to the city or cash according to the formula. So that's how this is a small 2-lot infill subdivision, you recall, along Public Avenue. had to do, the variance you granted had to do with the width of the right-of-way that would have caused it to be developed differently. Council approved that. Again, very small development, that's why it's only 400 and change.
Yeah, all right. All right.
Do you have anybody have any further questions?
Would you, when there is that payment in lieu of a parking lot, does it tend to be when it's just too small of a place to feasibly make a usable park?
Anymore, if there are a lot of things they look at. They look at, is it in an area that's already being served by a local park? In this case, it's not terribly close, but it is in proximity to Lola Clyde Park, which is currently being under development. So they look at that. If it's very small, yes, can't really take 10 square feet and turn it into a park. So yeah, it has a lot to do with that. But the preference is, if the area is not served by a park, then land would be better, so we can provide a park to that neighborhood.
It's pretty close to Jim Lyle Park, too.
Yeah,
That's-
if you go up
there's
over
two,
the
yeah,
hill.
there's two parks within
Yeah.
easy walking distance of it.
And one's fully developed.
All right.
We should advance this for approval.
And we can put it on consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. And lastly, we just have any reports?
Oh, we
So
still have
we've got
another
the-
urban berm thing about the,
Monumentation.
Oh, monumentation, sorry.
It's an exciting thing, Bob.
Exciting.
Monumentation agreement.
Yes, very exciting. So once again, this is kind of pretty standard practice for us with subdivisions. The monumentation agreement has to be agreed upon prior to them filing the plat, unless they want to place property pins within the plat. That's part of the state statutes. The developer provided an estimate of how much it'll cost to place the monuments within the subdivision. Their estimate was $750, so the security amount, which is 120% of that estimate, comes out to $900. So once that payment's paid, they can file their plat and move on with the subdivision. Again, this is kind of a pretty standard
Yeah.
deal.
If I may. Bob, can you explain why they don't want to set the pins at the time they file the plat? Because they're
Right.
still developing, right?
Yeah, so if they were to set all these monuments, they would be in the way during construction. So they post the security to postpone putting those monuments in, so they can do the construction without destroying them.
And it's a standard practice when the subdivision is entirely finished. Alturas, I recall when we did that, once it was all done, then they set the pins and off you go. But as Bob said, they just get in the way.
And so once the subdivision's done, we go out and we ask the developer, have the pins been installed? If they say they have, we go out and we verify, and if we see that they're in, then we release that security back to the developer.
Okay, and then definitely onto consent agenda?
It's pretty
All right.
exciting stuff. You probably want to put that on the regular.
Well, if you ever have a dispute, it becomes super exciting. So those are important things, so
I
thank you
doubt
very
Bob
much.
has anything else to do next Monday. You probably want to come present that again.
I would love to.
Thanks, Bob.
All right,
all
now,
we have.
yep, and you have no reports?
No, we don't. Oh, yes, I do. Sorry, my fault. Let me get to my report here. Give me half a second. I'm not as slick with technology as you guys are. Okay, so we have continued, engineering has continued to look at the Third Street Bicycle Pedestrian Bridge. They have now, because of some adjustment with the width, so that it matches the bike lanes that are leading up to it, we can purchase the bridge for $47,588, so it's less than the $50,000 bid requirement. so we can, don't have to get 3 quotes. We can go ahead and move that forward. The issue becomes, and that includes the abutments as well, the issue becomes, they will have to design the bridge, send the bridge specs over, we'll have to review them, send them back, and then they enter construction. There are a couple ways we can proceed. We can try to beat the weather and see if we can get it installed this year. The issue you run into is if you get too late in the year, you won't be able to do the paving, you won't be able to do the approaches, so on and so forth. If we run afoul of the weather, then there are only 2 options. If it's constructed, if it's delivered on site, we will have to store it at the city shops. We'll have to rent a crane twice and a truck to move it over to the site from whence it was delivered. We can have them construct it and store it on their site, which costs an estimated additional, get there, about $2,000 to store it for that 4 or 5 months.
Where is it being?
It's in
constructed?
Missoula.
Missoula, okay.
So-
Same firm that's done some.
Exactly. The same one that I believe that did the.
College.
College Street. Or we could put the order in, get it in the queue. They could construct it in the spring, like in January or February, delivered on site, set it. We can get the bridge abutments or the pillars, whatever they are, get those in place so that when they come, we can just go ahead and install it then. One of our biggest fears is if we run afoul of the weather, storage is one thing, but if you can't get the approaches up to it, you've got to have an asphalt plant that's open so you can do that. So preference from staff would be to go ahead, enter into the agreement, get the bridge paid for, have them put it in the construction queue in February, whenever they need to get it done, to have it here for installation in the spring. If that is satisfactory, that is the way we will proceed.
So we don't know for sure what the turnaround time is on getting it
I
constructed.
think they said, Jim, let me know.
Because if we could possibly put the piers in and set it, I mean, even if it couldn't be open, we could basically store it on the piers over the winter and not finish the approaches if that was.
According to, I didn't see you back there, Kevin. I could have had
That was
you do
possible.
this.
Well,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
about 6 weeks, according to, is what it takes them to build it.
yeah, I figured
From the
they,
time we say yes?
yes, from the time we approve their drawings and say fabricate, then 6 weeks should be max. And then they, according to their agreement, they can get it here within 14 days of finishing the fabrication.
Which
So,
puts us
Mid-November,
the
possibly.
First, second week in November.
no, the way I figured was, well, I had a schedule here. There you go. Oh, I've got it here. Thanks. I need my glasses though.
See, if you looked at it on here, you wouldn't.
Look how small that is.
He can
Make it bigger.
I'll make it bigger.
He knows that much technology. He knows.
That's all I know.
If the expenditure is approved, then we can notify them immediately. They can start, probably takes them generally, according to their normal process, about 2 weeks to develop the shop drawings. Send it to us, we can review it in a week, get it back to them. If there are no significant changes, they can begin, I figured they would begin fabrication by the, at worst case, the 22nd of October. So add 6 weeks to that, and fabrication is 1st of December. They could deliver it in December. This is likely a worst case. I just don't want to get, make promises that they can't keep.
What about, can you explain what Gary was talking about, the shifted size to line up with the bike lanes and?
Oh, this quote was for a 55 foot long by 10 foot wide bridge. So the bike lanes are normally 10 feet wide. And
Okay.
Les
So-
indicated the maximum width of the bike lanes being installed is 10 feet. 5 feet for each lane.
Yeah,
So we still have not made a decision of exactly where it's going to be placed in the north-south part.
that would be
correct?
at your,
Okay,
the council's
We'll have
choice.
a little time to do that, so we just wanted to get the thing ordered if we were gonna do it.
My question, when you were talking about the timeline thing with the abutments and the cost,
Mm-hmm.
does that cost include the abutments, or do we take?
It includes the abutments, and the staff would install them, the
Okay.
street department.
And when would that happen?
Well, hopefully that would happen sometime this fall, once we get them to fabricate the sills, which are long, 12-foot by 2.5-foot concrete, or steel boxes that will take concrete. And then, actually, the last time with the College Street Bridge, we went and picked those up because they were done, they could make those quickly, so we could get them in to receive the bridge, that concrete could cure. And so that would be, our plan would be to have them fabricate those first. We go get them, install them with city forces, and fill them with concrete.
So likely before weather is even an
Yeah,
issue.
hopefully.
So can you make the ramps to it be concrete?
Well, we need to pour that up to the bridge.
And that's why you use the asphalt?
Well, we're talking about, yes. We'd have to patch into the asphalt. So, December, they're not making asphalt, so the ideal thing would be to take care of that in the spring.
In addition, if it is cold, then there are concrete treatments that have to be done. On College Street, I think we had to cover those and heat.
Yeah, I was going to look the
Call.
cost of that up. I don't remember what we paid exactly, but we had to not just put blankets on it at the time, and that was actually December also, but we also had to heat the concrete below the blankets because it was quite cold. So it needs to cure at a temperature that's good for concrete.
So again, it's staff's recommendation that we just take weather out of the equation, get storage out of the equation, and just have it delivered next spring when it can be installed.
And get the abutments in the fall.
Yes.
And before that, there will be the discussion about where they go. Okay.
What's the where they go thing that you keep asking about?
Just with it being only 10 feet wide, is it going to go right down the center? Or is it going to be, there was some discussion of lining up with the bike lanes. I would like to have a discussion on if we need to protect the bike lanes while it's only a bike and pedestrian bridge. So those are discussions to happen later. But that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Gotcha. Do you have anything else you want to ask?
No, I think it's a reasonable group of options here, You talked about the concrete in terms of the deck. Doesn't that make it less
Portable?
easy? Yeah, less portable? Can we, like a wood deck or
Well,
some other kind of deck?
we have
would
talked
be-
about both, but a wood deck, it needed for a permanent wood deck to take this H5 loading, which is a 10,000-pound vehicle, it would take a taller bridge because the structure would change. So the idea was, what we did with the College Street Bridge is took a bridge of their common design, we had them lower the deck down so that we don't have so much elevation difference between the bottom chord of the bridge, which has to clear the banks and abutment, and the deck. So what we've asked them for on this quote is a bridge with that low pan, which we could either place a temporary wood deck on, not allow maintenance vehicles on it, or do a concrete. If we know it's going to stay there, there would be a concrete deck. If we think it may move, then we would asphalt it. Put some base and then asphalt, that could be peeled up fairly easily.
So you got if it's 10 feet wide, it's wide enough for a vehicle to get, so it's going to have bollards on the end to keep people from driving cars on it.
It would be a maintenance vehicle, so we could put removable bollards, but really, the standard practice today is not to use bollards because they're a safety issue for the bicycles. So more likely, we would sign it, and I don't know.
I know there aren't, on College Street, they don't, there's not bollards there.
And that was about when that started, where used to be, you would put a bollard at every pathway entrance that could possibly be driven on, but that's really been shown to be a safety thing.
What about the neighbors? You know, remember we had all the property. Originally, you had been talking, or the city had been talking to the people that were right there. How are they impacted? Has that changed, I guess, for those people?
They love the idea of a pedestrian bridge.
Oh,
And Scott and I have met with them several times and gotten to know them. They've gotten to know us. We have a very good relationship. And they are just thrilled to get a pedestrian bridge there. So there's been no, other than questions along the way, there have been absolutely no negative impacts of this.
and they don't think this is happening in lieu of multimodal bridge?
No, well, what we've explained to them is the process that you've all gone through, and that this is a pedestrian bridge, and we are decking it such that it can be moved. So they're aware of that.
Okay.
It seems to me that the idea of having to drive a 10,000-pound vehicle across it is kind of silly, because it's only like 50 or 60 feet. It could easily, how many days a year do we have to plow snow? Like 5 or 6 days a year that snow has to be plowed off sidewalks, and it seems like we can get along with a snow blower for 50 feet of it. I could probably shovel it by hand in half an hour. So it seems like to construct something that has to support a huge piece of equipment is an unnecessary expense, if it comes down to that, to keep it under the limit.
Well, I get
Yeah,
that too,
that's-
but is there any certain regulation? Is that why?
No, it would just be strictly for maintenance, them to be able to broom it with a toolcat.
But it is coming in under, even with that weight
It's
load.
not
Yeah.
going to make it
So-
more.
Yeah.
But if that's going to push it over, then
Yeah,
let's
it won't.
shovel it by hand. Oh,
I believe I hear a volunteer.
Yeah,
well, I'd be happy to do
Gets
it
us
if that's
signed
what
up,
it
man.
takes.
All
We
right.
can set you up with a schedule, Jim.
Okay.
Well, I definitely think that we have to put this on regular agenda, but it sounds like we have,
okay, we'll go ahead and get the bridge ordered, and Kevin will talk tomorrow about that.
Order it? Did you say?
That's what I said.
That's what I heard.
and then, but then I think having it
Within
so
the
that we can,
parameters.
to discuss, you know, again, like what we're doing here, I think it's helpful for everybody because everybody has to explain it
I can
to
report
somebody.
that at the next council meeting.
Okay.
The direction that you're giving, though, is that spring manufacture time is
I'm
fine.
fine with that. I
Okay, perfect.
don't think it's like imperative that we have someplace that people can ride bicycles across in the wintertime necessarily
It's up to you.
Obviously, and it would be great. I'd love to see it, but if it creates headaches, then we probably should wait. Because there'll be other expenses associated with trying to do it in the inclement weather as well.
Yeah.
And I'd prefer to avoid those.
Okay,
Besides the project.
thank
So are
you
you
very much.
thinking like April or May, or that's to be determined?
Hopefully, as soon as the asphalt plant fires up, and we can set the bridge and just cone it off for, until they do fire up in the spring, but
Yeah, and obviously we'd save some money if they can get it done in December and bring it here and just set it on there, and we
Yeah.
can just wall it off until, then saves us an extra crane rental or the storage at their facility.
We would not, if we go with the spring build, we wouldn't give them authorization to move forward with construction on it until possibly January or February, so that we don't run into the possibility of
Oh, I see,
storage
yeah.
issues.
Right.
I do have to add one qualifier, is that quote is good for 30 days. So if we don't initiate fabrication, and they, over the past 6 weeks, I've been communicating with them quite a bit, the steel prices are fairly volatile right now. So I think ideally, we should lock that.
Yeah, if we can purchase the bridge for construction in January or February, they can buy their steel and have it in stock to go ahead with it.
Yeah,
I'll put my top negotiators on it with them.
thank you.
And so we would go ahead and spend that money this fiscal year?
Yes. Similar to the fire truck, as I mentioned in our, whenever it was, the open budget process, that according to the accounting and GASB regulations, you don't actually book the expense until, even though it occurs in a different fiscal year, because you don't receive the asset, you don't book the expense until the following year. So, anyway, that's,
Right, so it
That's
looks
what
like
they do
unanimously,
downstairs.
we agree that yes, go ahead and
okay.
purchase, not purchase, but put the
Put the order
request
in.
in, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you very much. There is no further business before this committee. We are adjourned.